In this video, I'm going to show you how I went from this to this using these. You may have not seen the last video I made. I followed the Chris Fix rust repair video, and it worked very well on the other side, so I thought I would do it again for this side on my rusted out rocker panels. Now, of course, the first thing you need to do is sand away the rust. Depending on how terrible your rust is, when you're sanding away, quite a bit of metal will also come with it. That's just going to happen. There's nothing you can do. As you can see, the gap in my metal on the rocker is getting larger and larger. By the time I was done sanding, I was almost giving up hope because I just didn't know that I was going to be able to pull this off. I sanded as much as I could, and it took a while. It takes a while to sand off the rust. You really want to make sure you get as much of it off as possible, even if that includes removing the metal, which is what I did. And then after I was finally done sanding the rust off, I cleaned it all down with this adhesive cleaner made by 3M. And then it was time for the rust converter. Now the rust converter I sprayed inside that hole, and it's basically only going to cover any surfaces that's on the inside or behind. You're not going to use this and then paint over it. It's only for the inside and the behind surfaces. So after you've done that, you wait about a half hour, and then it's time for the rubberized undercoating. And again, that is not going in the front. It's going only on the inside surfaces, so inside and behind. The rubber undercoating is very gloopy and makes a mess, so make sure you have something under your car to catch it. Or maybe it's not messy and I'm just messy, which could be a thing. I did get a little bit of it on the car, so I just sanded it away. It's not a big deal. So this next step, the Bondo and the sanding and the Bondo and the sanding, as you can see, my hole is quite large. I have quite a bit to manufacture here, and it's not easy to do, or it wasn't easy for me to do, because there's just nothing there for the Bondo to grab onto. So it was a matter of me incrementally, small baby steps, trying to put enough Bondo on so I could let it dry and then put a little bit more Bondo on. And it was very frustrating because this was only my second time doing this, and I was nervous as hell because I knew I wasn't doing very well. And also gravity. Gravity is not your friend with this Bondo. This is the Bondo glass. Like fiberglass Bondo, and it's gloopy and it's heavy and you don't have a lot of time to work with it. Once you put it together and mix it together and you add the hardener, you have maybe 5 minutes to make something with it. So it's a little bit, for me it was causing anxiety. It was glooping, it was falling off. I would do a little bit, and then I would add a little bit more, and then I would walk away for a half hour, and then I would sand it down, because I really wanted to stay ahead of the sanding. And honestly, towards the end, I did not stay ahead of the sanding, and I was just like, I just want to get this done. I stopped caring what it looked like from underneath. I was just so frustrated. If you're going to do it, and you do care about what it looks like underneath, it's not impossible. It's just, I was over it. I was over it. This took me about 4 days, and it was just frustrating because, again, I had nothing for the Bondo to hold on to, and it was glooping, it was falling on my gloves. I tried to manufacture some sort of a holder so this mesh, I could get the Bondo into the mesh, but the mesh is very light, very pliable, so it was bending, and it wasn't holding the Bondo. Again, this is not how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be using this stuff for a hole like this. You want to have a welder come in, and you want to take it to a body shop and get it done right, and they will weld a piece on there and it will look amazing. But we took it to a body shop, and it was literally going to cost half the cost of the car. So it was just too much money. We just didn't have it. So this was my option, my only option. Well, the other option was to leave it like that, but it looked kind of nasty. And the car is in otherwise mechanically great shape, so I didn't want to leave it all rusty. I wanted it to look nice. Nicer. So here I am still struggling with Bondo. It's still falling, still fighting gravity. I have some really large holes in the back that I try to fill over and over again. It was a struggle. And maybe you're better at this than me. Maybe this isn't your first time. Or maybe it is your first time, but you're a better planner. I would say that if I had this to do over again, I would probably stick some sort of a large PVC pipe in there and see if that helped me out, just to have something for the Bondo to hold on to. Like a large piece of PVC pipe might have done the trick. So again, if you're a better planner than me, that might be something you want to consider. I didn't consider that until it was too late. I'm literally doing my best to fill that hole in the back, but there's nothing for the Bondo to hold on to. It's just, I mean, and at this point, I was just like, okay, I'm putting my glove in there. And I did. I put my glove in there because I had nothing for the Bondo to hold on to. So I shoved a rubber glove up there. And guess what? The Bondo clung to the glove. And as I'm sure the pros out there are really not happy with me, but I had to do it. I had nothing there for the Bondo to grab a hold of. So in went the rubber glove, and spoiler alert, it's not the only time this happens in this video. Because as you can see, there's another gaping hole to the right that also the Bondo just kept falling out of it. It wouldn't stay. There was nothing for it to adhere to. So I did some more sanding. A lot more sanding. And then it was time for more Bondo. You can see the glove there, but you know what? I covered it right up. So at this point, the bottom doesn't look awful. It's about to look really bad, but at this point I couldn't anymore. I honestly felt like this was going to take me for the rest of my life. I was getting so, I don't know, I was feeling dejected. Is that the right word? Hopeless. You do your best to shape the Bondo to conform to what the cars should be. And if there was more metal there, that would be an easier job, for sure. Because, like I said, I had rust on the other side of my car. I'll link the video right above now. And that came out perfectly. Like, everything went as planned because it was not a full structure wrought out. So, here's this also. I decided to fight gravity with plastic. So I just stuck this plastic bag onto the Bondo so it wouldn't fall, and I was hoping it would shape a little bit. I could make it a little rounder as it was hardening, And it worked pretty good, actually. So you just peel it off. And that's all nice and hard. Do a little sanding. Did I do sanding? No, I went right for more Bondo. I think this is where I just said, you know what? Here goes another glove. I'm putting another glove in there because it worked the first time, and why not? And you know what? It worked this time too. If you have rusted out rocker panels and you want to do this, God bless you. Because it's gonna be a little tedious, a little frustrating, and very time consuming, but it will look better. It doesn't matter how ugly this part is. You don't care so much how it looks in this step. Just get it on there. And in some instances, it's way easier to get it on there than others. All right, another baggie. In another half hour. It's looking monsterish. I know. And I still need more Bondo. Also, you really do need one of those respirators. A mask isn't going to cut it. It's just the sanding is just so bad for you. You don't want to breathe any of that in, so I have a link to the respirator down below. Just got it from Amazon, and it worked perfectly. So, more baggy, more drying. All right. So I'm feeling around for holes, hoping that I don't have any, but I did. So another round of Bondo. My God. But at least I knew that I was nearing the end of this phase. I don't have a lot of patience sometimes, and I think if I had patience, this would have come out better. So maybe you'll have a little bit more patience, or maybe my advice to you is have patience. Don't rush through it. Just do this part right for however long it takes, because this is your base. This step is basically you're shaping the car. You're shaping what that rocker is going to look like. And you really should do it right. You should be a little bit more patient. I was so frustrated. So frustrated. So it's the next day. I gave up for the day. And it's been sitting overnight. Got pretty much all the big holes filled. So now it's time to sand. And this takes a long time. And I'm using 60 or 80 sandpaper here, and I could tell it was going to take forever. So I switched back to the grinder with a sander attachment on it, just to move it along a little bit eventually, because this would have taken hours and hours and hours. And I was running out of this low grit sandpaper. This helped a lot. This helped move the process quite a bit. I just was smoothing it down and getting it ready for the next step. And you want to make sure that it's feathered out on the edges, so there's no bumps where it meets just the regular painted car. You really want that to be smooth. Well, this looks like hell, right? But it gets better, as you've already seen. So you want to clean it all off, and then you want to go and use the gold Bondo filler, the gold body filler. You're going to use a lot less of this than you did of the other stuff. Basically, you're pushing it in, and you want to fill in any of the holes that are left from the original stuff you put down. And that's what this is for. This is to go through, and now you want to really make that surface smooth, really smooth. Now, I don't do it very well underneath because I can't see. I can't see what I'm doing. I'm just shoving my hand down there. Full disclosure, I found a tick out there while I was working, so I didn't want to get on the ground because I was convinced I was going to get Lyme disease or something. So I should have looked under. If you're in a good spot to look under, do. I didn't. That's why it doesn't look great on the underneath. I guess I don't mean to make excuses. I'm just explaining what happened. I didn't look under. It's 100% my fault. But anyway, here's the gold. The gold body filler is great. It really it goes a long way to smoothing out that original glass body filler. You won't have to apply this gold body filler nearly as much as you did with the other stuff. But you do have to make sure you've sanded the other stuff as smoothly as possible. And that can take you an hour or more, depending on how strong you are, what you're using as a sander. So just keep sanding. Like I said, I used this, believe it was 60 to sand the green stuff. Also, this gold body filler, again, 5 minutes. You have like 5 minutes to work with it, and then it starts hardening, and then it's impossible to work with. This step is almost like icing a cake. You don't want to gloop it on like you did the other stuff, or like I did the other stuff. This you want a little bit more finesse. But there'll be a lot of sanding of this too. Now when you sand off the gold body filler, you definitely have to hand sand it. No more grabbing the grinder with the sanding attachment. You've got to hand sand it. This is I think I tried to use 300 at first, or 320, but it wasn't working very well. It was way too fine of a grit. I wasn't getting much done, so as you can see, I changed the sandpaper here. I think I'm using like 100 or something. But yeah, you definitely need your respirator. As I'm sanding, I'm seeing where I didn't put enough filler in, so I'm going to have to do another round of filler. So, round 2 for the body filler. Going in and really trying to fill in those little nicks and holes, little chips here and there, not using nearly as much as I did the first time. I'll say this, the products all work very well. All of it. The mesh, the Bondo glass, the gold body filler, the next step, which is the glazed putty, that also fills very tiny holes. All of it works really good. Works better than I do, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. At this point, I'm not nearly as frustrated as I was, because I can see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and while what I'm doing is not perfect, it is better than a gaping rust hole, and that's what I had before. I think I'm back to maybe using the 300. You don't want to use the 60 or the 80. You want to sand this with a little bit higher of a grit since it's not on there so thick. Just keep sanding and making sure it's smooth, making sure when you run your finger over it, it just feels like one smooth surface. I try to fix the bottom a little bit, but honestly, it's just a half-hearted attempt. Okay, step 8, the glazing and spot putty. Well, the camera wasn't on. I guess I thought I was recording and I wasn't, but this is the glazing and spot putty. It comes in a little tube. Everything else comes in like a can. This comes in a little tube, and you mix this with hardener like everything else, and then you apply it in a very, very thin layer, and then you sand it off, again with a higher grit sandpaper. Very lightly sand it. You're just really lightly sanding. You kind of just skim it on and lightly sand it down. Chris says it's to fill holes. I guess you don't even see, like little air holes or whatever. So you don't want to use this to actually fix anything. It's just like a final coat. Just an extra layer to smooth everything out. I try to make sure everything that I can see is smooth. It's not the shaping job. I didn't do the best because there was just nothing there to build it. So it's not perfect, the shape of it, but it is pretty smooth. Also, it's smoother than it looks. I know you see all these different colors of the different primer, but it is way smoother than it appears to be. Once you put the paint on it, it's not going to look nearly as ugly as it does here. So now the gray filler primer. And it's not filler. You want to just spray this 3 coats with maybe 5 or 10 minutes in between. Now, once again, learn from my mistakes. I'm a little too close with the can. So I'm going to start to get runs. And same thing happens with the paint. I just get too close with the can, but my problem is here is that I have something hanging off of the door because I'm trying to protect it from the paint. So I'm holding that with one hand and trying to paint with the other and trying to get full coverage. And as you can see, I don't get full coverage underneath because I just can't see, and I'm trying to do a few things at once. And so I get runs. And it's fine. You can sand off the runs with a really light grit sandpaper. It's not the end of the world. Look how far you've come. If you've made it this far, please don't let some runs in your paint get you down, because you've done great. You've done great so far. So this is what it looks like here after the primer. Nice and feathered out on the edges. You can see the shape is okay. It's not perfect. It's a little lumpy, but it is what it is. I did my best. So you will probably do better. So congratulations on that. So here's the paint. Once again, learn from my mistakes. Too close. I'm too close. Trying to hold that thing. Once again with the paint. 3 coats. It says 5 minutes in between, so 5 minutes in between, 3 coats. The rocker panel is in a rough spot, so you might get runs like I did. Maybe if you took off the door, you wouldn't have to worry about it so much. Oh, there goes the runs. The runs I told you about. I don't even realize it's happening at the time. And I think at first I'm bummed out, but then I'm like, you know what? Look how far I've come. So I wait for it to dry, and then I sand them down. And then I just paint over them. And they're hardly noticeable. See, there's the thing I'm trying to hold so the door doesn't get paint on it. And the door did get paint on it, but it came right off with some 99% rubbing alcohol. So there it is. There's the after. Not perfect, but certainly way better than the before. And I'm here to say, if I can do it, you can do it. For sure. So, I hope you've learned something. I hope you're inspired to fix those rusty rocker panels and do a better job than I have. And definitely videotape it and link it in the comments because I'd love to see how you did. All right. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Oh, and subscribe. I've got a podcast and I make videos all the time of other kinds of stuff. So subscribe and like, and I will return the favor. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.